Good evening once again, and welcome to the big question. No, sorry, hold no bars. I was just making a joke there because I just had a caller who wanted to find out if my other program is going to be continued. Yes, but give us another couple of weeks. This question, this this program this evening is hold no bars, and it's a program about you saying it as you see it on the issues or issues we're going to be speaking about this evening. And tonight I want to speak about elections again. I want to speak about registration. I want to update you on what has happened since last Friday when we met. So the previous caller asked about this program, Hold No Bars, and why. And again, it's a program to help air views and also at the same time provide information, vital information for many, many persons who still want to understand what's happening in our society and in particular the economic, political, and social situation in our country. We say hold no bars. Normally, the slang is bar no holds. Bar no holds meaning that, like, if you go in a wrestling match and they say everything goes, right? I turn it around a little bit and say hold no bars because it's about the same thing. So tonight, it's another edition of Hold No Bars, and we've been running here for quite a few months now. Tonight I want to speak about elections again. Excellent turnout today at a protest which was called by the People's Progressive Party Civic, and that assembly point happened at the Leader of the Opposition office, and the protesters marched to the office of the President. I'll give you a little update about that, and then we'll also speak about, it was pouring rain. When I left Eccles this morning, it was bright sunshine, and I said, yes, this is going to be a hot day. But by the time it was 10 o'clock, it had gotten completely overcast, and it was pouring rain. The protesters braved the rain and stood their ground, led by the presidential candidate of the People's Progressive Party, the Honorable Irfan Ali. And very, very enthusiastic. In fact, the crowd seemed to have enjoyed the rain and was even more enthused to shout their demands for elections now, and President Granger must go. And I saw one sign I liked a lot, said, yes, 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 Granger must go. But why should we have to be again in this position? And I was listening to His Excellency Samuel Hines, Prime Minister, responding to, I think, a reporter, may have been from NCN, who was trying to catch him to trip him up. But His Excellency Samuel Hines is a well-seasoned politician and a most brilliant scholar that this country has produced. In fact, as we normally chat, he was one of the first persons to win a scholarship to Queen's College in those days, 1955. And I was joking with him this morning, I said, I had to born before you could get to Queen's College. So, and he won one of the 3 scholarships in the country to go to Queen's College from Myconi. I think it was, may have been Novar. And we saw some persons from that school did extremely well. Congratulations to all the candidates who wrote the National Grade 6 Assessment Examination. We had a very, very keen common entrance, as we would say, at the top. 2 students stopping with 532, and then The second highest mark went to another two students, and then the third highest marks went to 9 students tied for, and I saw one friend of mine, his child got 524. I think the maximum was 536, but the competition at the top was extremely close, extremely close. And to all of you who have done exceedingly well and have gotten into a secondary school, this is not about you being a failure because you didn't get the Queen's College or Bishop's or President's College. So, congratulations again. The 14,000 children writing this exam, a few will get into the top schools, less than 5% will get into the top so-called top school, but it's where you went to school. Look, so many persons have gotten a chance at an education regardless of where. I remember one year out at Covent Garden, kid coming out topping CXC, CSEC I think it is now. But all of you whose kids would have written CXC, you're going to be expecting results. I think about 12,000 children would have written CXC this year. 14,000 wrote the grade 6 assessment. And that's a normal progression. 14,000 writes common entrance, and by the time it's CXC, about 12,000. So 2,000 children seem to drop through this system. But again, congratulations to all who have gotten places, and those who didn't get the school of your choice. You are not at a dead end. You still have an opportunity wherever you go to school. Wherever you go to school, you have an opportunity to do well. Enjoy the August holidays, as we would say in Guyana. And for those of you who are watching from the northern climes, it's the summer holidays, but I want to say to our children in Guyana, enjoy it. Do some extra things, A lot of the kids will go on vacation, blah, blah, blah. But tonight, we want to touch on elections again. We want to touch on elections. Since we met, the leader of the opposition, His Excellency Bar Jagdeo, had a meeting with His Excellency, the President, the sitting President of Guyana, David Granger, Brigadier General David Granger, and they met yesterday at the Ministry of the Presidency. And Mr. Jagdeo describes the meeting as promising. The main item on the agenda was the selection of a chairman for GCOM. Remember, the Caribbean Court of Justice had ruled that the appointment of James Patterson was illegal. He didn't follow the Constitution, and so was null and void. So a new chairman has to be appointed. The CCJ made their ruling almost 3 weeks ago. Then they reappeared on the 28th, was it, of June, for the parties to come to the CCJ with proposals. The parties had none. Today, the parties met. And, sorry, not today, yesterday the parties met, and there was this release that said the meeting went well. His Excellency Bar Jagdeo said it was promising, but he has been at the negotiating table for more than half of his life. And he knows, like so many of you, there is no deal until the last letter is signed off on. You can have, out of 100 issues on the table, resolutions of 99% of them. If you don't have 100% and a sign off, there is no deal. And what we have seen is that you have to drag the coalition to the table, kicking and screaming, then they will give a concession as if they are going to move forward in a democratic way, and then they backpedal. Look at the issue of how they dealt with the removal of the dual citizens from Parliament. One time these cabinet ministers were going to resign. Next thing, their resignation wouldn't take effect until a certain date, and then again that was postponed after protest. You had on December the 21st, 2018, when the no confidence motion, the NCM as now being known, was passed, Amna Ali, Nagamutu, everyone conceded that the government has lost and we have to go to fresh elections. Yeah. Next day, total reversal. Court battle, this, that. February, Lowenfield says he can produce a clean list in a certain period by going to continuous registration, which is allowed in the law. He backpedals. Court matter, and here we are, more than 6 months after the no confidence motion, more than 3 months past the date when elections should have been held, and no elections. And no elections. Now the PNC wants negotiations. So let's hope that a list will be submitted shortly by the Leader of the Opposition and His Excellency David Granger, Brigadier General David Granger, would choose someone from this list of 6 names which the opposition leader would provide. 6 names, not names that are not unacceptable to the president. There are 4 former chairmen of the Elections Commission still around. You have His Excellency Ambassador Rudy Collins. He was the first chairman produced by the Carter Formula. You have our neighbor across the road in Republic Park, Mr. Hopkinson, Edward Hopkinson. After Rudy Collins was Edward Hopkinson. You have Brigadier General retired, Major General retired, Joe Singh, who is also a chairman of the Elections Commission, and you have Dr. Steve Surjbali. So 4 former chairmen of GCOM still around. And the opposition leader had scouted, consulted, and produced 18 names to the president, and he couldn't find one acceptable of those 18 names, but he went unilaterally and chose Patterson. So this process now hopefully could be concluded shortly, and there will be a new chairperson. But the PNC seems bent on derailing elections with this unjustified claim for house-to-house registration. I say unjustified for a number of reasons. The 2 most important for me are, 1, there is no provision in the law, and we've said this over and over again on Hold No Bars. So no provision in the law. The law provides for continuous registration. And the second issue is elections are supposed to be held within 3 months of a no confidence motion being successful, or within 3 months of a confidence vote being defeated. It's the same thing. The confidence vote normally comes from the government side, so a government member would stand up and move a motion of confidence in the government. But that could be defeated, or the opposition could move a no confidence motion in the government, as was done and heard on December 21st, 2018. 2 examples of this, we've been through this before. In India, I think it is Vajpayee was still president, 1999 or something like that, and a vote of confidence was moved by his side, the government side, and it was defeated by one vote. I think it was like 311 to 310. And then no, in Britain, against Prime Minister Callaghan, Margaret Thatcher moved a vote of no confidence, and she won that again by one vote. So that is history now. We have to go to elections. In all democratic countries, when this happens, people go to the poll with the list. They go to the poll with the list. But we heard first about 2 weeks ago David Hines saying the coalition cannot win an election with the current list. And the chairman of the PNC, are the Honorable Valda Lawrence, Minister of Public Health, had a press conference today, and she is saying that with a new house-to-house registration, and this is very confident, they're going to win more than one seat. The margin of victory will be more than one seat greater than the PPP. With such confidence, I want to give you my take, and then we're going to open up. So, as I've said again on no less than 3 programs, there's only one way that the government can be so enthused about this house-to-house registration, and that is they intend, during this registration exercise, I don't know if it's going to be a bug on the program, but to drop, and we have a figure, His Excellency David Granger has said 200,000 transactions seems to be in need of correction. 200,000. Correction could be amendment, it could be deletion or what. And I feel that with a house-to-house registration, they will drop off almost half the voting strength that is in predominantly PPPC communities. In the past, the People's National Congress, when they're rigging elections, or when they rigged elections, I should say, I have no apologies for saying so, they would stuff the ballot boxes. They just go on a wild markup campaign, stuff the ballot boxes. Since that time, with the electoral changes we've had coming into the 1992 elections, you had a couple of changes. Ballots must be counted in the place of polls. Every polling agent from the political parties contesting has a right to sign off on those results and get a copy of those results. A copy of the results is supposed to be posted on the walls on the outside of the polling station so that any citizen can go and examine it. Any citizen can go and examine that statement of poll at any time, and it's against the law for anyone to tear it down. The police that are stationed at the polling places, especially to protect it, they're not supposed to lock people out of the compound after the results are posted. People should be able to go in and check it. Check it. So there's a check in the system. The opposition will have a statement of poll. The government parties will have a statement of poll. It will be posted for the public. Right? So this result for a polling place, a box, would be well known, and in this social media age, I'm sure there would be some quick transmission by smartphone from that too. So here is the situation. The list, as we have it, can be cleansed by a claims and objections period. People who have reached a qualifying age can claim to go on. If you have an objection to someone on the list that shouldn't be there, you can object. So this period of claims and objections could happen. But the PNC wants house to house. Only reason for house to house is to drop 200 names from PPP strongholds. That's the only reason for a house to house registration. And they're feeling that this will give them a big edge, and I say they meaning the PNCR. Forget about the AFC and all the other four parties in APNO, the PNCR. Good? So they're very confident about that. David Hines from the WPA has also issued a similar sentiment that the coalition can't win an election with this list. And the only way they can have a slim chance is if they disenfranchise persons they feel will vote against them. Because a lot of persons might be a sympathizer of the PPPC, a member of the PPPC, but when political situations develop and deteriorate, as we have now, the fence-sitters, the undecided, they vote for justice. They vote for principle. They vote to keep the bullies out. So this is one of the hurdles facing the coalition. They have been so unjust to so many people. And not only the victims of their injustice are rallying against them, but those who are in favor of justice and democracy are opposed. When I see some of the blogs and the comments from people who I thought would never be supporting Bharat Jagdeo, and I'll open the, give me about 3-4 minutes, I'll open the lines. People who I feel has always been critical, they have said now, look, this thing is not about the two parties, it's about standing up for Guyana, for us to leave a legacy of democracy. This is about us. This is about my rights which are being violated. A no confidence motion was successful. We have to uphold my constitution of this country. And so this government is frustrating the highest law of the land and refusing to give us elections. So Mr. Granger is now negotiating. But there was a funny thing today. I don't know if it was this program or one of my other programs that I mentioned prior to 92, when the regime, the PNC regime, would have announced elections, weeks and months before, you would see the presence of lots of soldiers on the road, lots of army vehicles. You would see, I call them armor cars, but or war tank, but you'd see these battle-ready troop carriers on the road as a form of intimidating people. And it worked to some extent. It worked. But they didn't even want to try to see if it intimidated sufficient people, so they never counted the ballots and released the results. They used to hijack all and take them to certain counting stations after they make a visit to certain army places, and they are stuffed and restuffed. So that's history. But today at the protest, there were no less than 4 of the Hager buses, which we got from China. The very fancy air-conditioned buses. I think the Chinese ambassador donated buses, ATVs, police vehicles, to the tune of about $3.5 million 2 years ago, or a year ago. But among them is a fleet of very nice buses, fully air-conditioned, beautiful interior, real executive, which are parked. If you go and pass Kampala, you'll see a line of them, right? Parked in Kampala, Ghana. So we had like no less than 4 of these buses passing the protest line on Virginia Road. Good. And then a short while after, you saw the mounted branch of the police, passing by. And then you saw a van load of joint forces persons with their dogs passing also. And clearly it had to be an attempt at intimidating the protesters, who found it very funny. For the dogs, I want to say to the protester, when they unleash the dogs, you battle with the dogs and bite their ears. To get past a dog, bite his ears, right? And he will run and scream. Good? So if you ever got a tackle with a dog, get into battle and bite the ear of the dog. Now, so this form of intimidation happened today. In spite of the fact they say the police or whoever is celebrating 180 or 80 years, whatever it is, we know that earlier this year, the Army had issued a special operations manual to deal with elections. And the head of the CDC, Kester something, excuse me if I can't remember your name, he said that they were preparing for dealing with mass gatherings. But this is a government in power. It's a government known for horrible mass protests, this government, right? So it has to be just a form of intimidation, but we all know that times are changing and are changing rapidly. So now I will open up the lines. You have my piece. I'm very skeptical with respect to the smooth outcome of the nomination and selection of a new GCOM chairman. I'm a skeptic in this regard. And then this issue of house-to-house registration, which the PNC is pushing, is a non-starter, a tactic to delay elections, and a tactic to deny hundreds of thousands of persons an opportunity to exercise their democratic right. Hi, good evening. Hold no bars. You're the first caller tonight. Good evening. Good evening. Go ahead.
Let me say something now, right? You gotta be careful what you ask for.
Mm-hmm.
And what seed you plant.
Right.
You get plant bad seed, you're gonna reap bad seed.
Mm-hmm.
I would say plant, you're gonna reap. Every jack you plant bad seed. People don't forget. And you can twist it, turn it how you want to twist it, because we never lose the election.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why? Jack, you get a lot of baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was sitting on TV. Let me go back to this. It was PNC had protested on the road, like protesting from the office yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
The special branch that don't start shooting tear gas on them.
Garbage. But continue to talk.
I never protested in this country.
Mm-hmm.
I have never ever protested in this country.
Mm-hmm. I'm listening.
I have seen it happen. I have seen a smaller group more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Them people used to rule this country.
Mm-hmm.
They shape up so. They shoot them, they gather shoot them.
Okay, but you can go on. Your experience and mine are two different experiences. But go ahead.
Yeah. Remember, people don't forget.
Mm-hmm.
You can't come back in 4 years and try to tell people other people is scam.
Mm-hmm.
If people know what you've done, you got to wait your turn.
Mm-hmm.
The season finish.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody says season. When I was a small boy growing up in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
if Jagan was alive, the country would have been better by now.
Mm-hmm.
Jagan had a chance to rule this country because Jagan was a real patriotic. Jagan is a man who loves this country hard. Their mother done this.
Good.
Nobody else loves this country hard. They're patriotic. Very good. I could remember if DMJ, then used to call for social registration. So what is it now?
Chief, you have it wrong. You tell me when Jagdio called for house-to-house registration.
From civil born, I'm telling you, calling for registration also,
Okay.
right?
Jagdio was a little boy. He wasn't
And,
even coming out of the seed.
no, you want everything in your favor.
No, we want everything in the favor of democracy.
But the millionaires, they not even tell the TV because they were disrespecting the rule of the law in this country. You can remember when they fight in Johnstown. Again, members of the government street with it. Jackie was there. If you play back the tape, you will see do not, Kusad was there. Do not sing or whatever it is. This children go with your neck. And Jackie started to laugh. You watch. If you don't like, go on TV, let that be case.
Okay.
If you can't, you don't forget. You have to be great
Yeah,
and smart.
So I know of one saying, two wrongs don't make a right. So
Right.
good for goose, good for gander, you're saying. Well, thanks a lot. Let's give another person a chance to come through. Good? Okay, so the lines are open again. And one person has a view that we have planted bad seeds. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars.
Good night, Manzoor Nadir.
Good evening.
Hi, it's Zico.
Go ahead.
All right, Manzoor.
Okay, so the lines are open again. Let's, when we call on you, please, you have a chance to make your point, right? Good. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars. Remember, just 1 second. If I see a private call, I don't take it. I just cut it off, right? Good?
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
I want a program must come up on this channel. That you must stop bother who PNC, who PP, stop talking for Guyanese.
Good.
When you are saying this thing, must say for Guyanese. You put the PPP and PNC is divided, is division you put in between the people. You know that. And you should stop doing it. Should stay in for Guyanese. All the rest of the country when they're talking for Trinidad. I'm a Trinidadian. Now a PPP and a PNC and an ATNU or what case maybe. So, please.
Okay, well, everyone is a Guyanese. All Guyanese are entitled to live in a country that is democratic and not ruled by dictators. That's my answer to the last caller, right? Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Go ahead. Good evening.
The voter list. These people didn't know that the election due March. So therefore, the list valid from January to March. Therefore, the PPP a credit. This list is still valid.
No, we had a list that would have been valid till the end of April. So once the no confidence motion would have passed, the government could have, the president could have dissolved parliament and announced a date before March the 23rd, whatever it was.
Exactly.
And with a valid list.
Exactly. The other thing, the young people, I met them, and what they said to me, they said they voted the last election. These people in prominence and jobs, in the name on the list or not, they will not vote. This is what the DNC should know. And those use it as a yardstick.
Okay, thanks for the comment. So the lines are all clear. One caution, if you call unknown or private, I don't take it, right? Hi, good evening, you're on the air.
Good evening. I'd like to know
Tell me.
why, what they doing with the river now.
Oh, yeah,
They're not going to take river now. The land is enough for them.
right.
Take river now. So
Ye-
many whole party for the PNC that go and drunk themselves.
Okay, thanks a lot. And she's talking about the lands just on West Dam. In fact, they actually have a whole city of people living on the mudflats there. I wonder if that particular area is also on the lease that was given out. Hi, good evening. You're on the
Hi,
air.
good evening, Mr. Nadir.
Okay, let me turn you down a little bit. Go ahead.
If a government is in office illegally
Yes.
and they're functioning, accessing funds, as I heard, they said they got $1 billion in contracts given out
Yeah.
in their state of illegality, right? Why would they need elections
if they can operate in an illegal manner as the same way they're in a legal manner. And what would be your explanation if you see next May 11th that this government has no time with election and there and there? What would you be on this TV explaining to people? This is my first point, right?
Good.
All right. My second point is this guy and his daughter that got murdered at the money changer, right? Let's say that guy had disarmed one of those men and shot them and killed them. Would he be in jail?
Yep.
So this country has no provisions for self-defense. It doesn't have.
No.
Okay, my third point. This guy, Sally Marcus, he is behaving like a little child, little children, when they tell him, oh, you can't have this thing. No. That's the kind of attitude he got. So he was asking for people to behave mature in this parliament and in this country. But he's not behaving mature. He's behaving like a little child. That way the judges tell him, look, this is the decision we got. He's saying, no. He has some argument. So that little child attitude, if he's an old man and he has that little child, how could he be reprimanding people to behave mature?
Thanks a lot. Let me answer the first part of the question which you wanted. And what happens if next year? It's illegal. They should not be handing out contracts. They should just be continuing on. The permanent secretaries they have already had a budget and they have certain line items that they can ensure that they spend certain monies, not the big capital programs, just to keep the services of government provided to the people. But like in India, for example, once an election is called or no confidence, you can't sign a contract. You can't commit the government. You can't cut a ribbon. You can't use state assets to go to party campaigns. And in most Commonwealth countries that came from the British system, that is the convention and the principle under which people operate. Except we have a government that has a history of doing what they want, and it's going to take a lot of resistance to change that. The person who was talking about Guyanese, I want to talk about democracy. So whichever party you are supporting, you have to first put the democratic principle, persons' freedoms, right? That has to be primary. And human rights organizations, non-governmental organizations, international community uphold this sacred principle, and especially the opposition party. So, with respect to the money changer who was killed, that person was, I think at one time on the 19 national cricketer from the East Bank. Yes, he was from the East Bank. It was one very sad. He did disarm, partly from the news tonight, one of the persons threw the gun into the yard of another neighbor. But there's so much we could do, running after the lady who picked up a few dollars, right? Yes, she's dishonest, and trying to, instead of getting after catching these guys, is another issue. And before that, let me just also mention this killing in the police station at Suddy. This guy couldn't choke himself to death, right? And the moment this guy death was discovered by whoever, instead of putting everybody as a suspect and swabbing their fingernails, a man getting choked would scratch the dirt and he would scratch the people. That's a natural thing, right? But instead, the people up in the Essequibo who manned the study station, I'm not going to pin this on our police, try to cover up. And again, our sympathies to their family. Hi, good evening, you're on the air. Go ahead. You're on the air? Okay, so that person is off. Let's get to the WhatsApp messages. People are missing the bus. No explanation needed. A no confidence motion was passed. The law says government must resign and hold elections in 90. Well, it's not in 90 days, in 3 months, right? GCOM should be in readiness in a maximum of 90 days. GCOM management needs to be replaced for non-function of their duties. So thank you very much. That person who just texted back to the telephones. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Go ahead, you're on the air. Go ahead. Okay, good. So this line, I don't know which number this one is, but sorry, it's a 233-2459. Seems to be having a little problem. Yes, I was speaking about the death. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Good evening.
Okay, Simon Brooks.
Yeah.
She's got all disaster, what that place in Guyana. One at East Coast, at the shooting. He shot the family yet. When he got fire, anybody sick for sheep, she sticks like a man, she running down to the family. And the police need to use all the cameras there for the East Coast Road, to look for the car and Prophet Century Road.
Okay, thank you. Hi, good evening. Sorry, cut that one off. Good. So we're back clear again. Yes, the police got to step up a bit to the plate. It's not happening that we're seeing this big reduction as people are saying, hi, good evening. I recognize this name as a regular. Go ahead.
Good evening, Manzoor.
Good evening.
I want to quote something, and I want to talk about. First, I spoke to Peter about the lands being given to and he was to get back, and he never. Those lands are not lands and surveys. Those lands belong to the maritime people, so the lands and survey can't give those rural lands to anybody. And you need to check that.
Okay.
The other question, I got a book in front of me. Charles Barnum speak of human rights. It's 1980. And let me just quote about this constitution and this 3 months stick what Barnum said. This is in keeping with the last provisions which we passed here. Therefore, the House cannot beyond the 25th of October 1980. The Prime Minister become the executive, cannot continue as executive unless he is elected in election, which has to take place within 3 months of the 25th of October. This is a very important quotation by the one, I would say, the man who read the Constitution in 1980, apart from Charbonnet. He was a dictator. And it states that the elections have to take place in 3 months. I don't know if we don't got researchers looking at these things.
We do, and yes, thanks for bringing it up, reminding people, though, right?
You hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
No, I finished it. I don't want to get too long today, but I want you to check this maritime thing.
Okay.
Because
Well, somebody got to check it up, right? So I'm glad you raised it and alert people to who should give out the seashore lands, right?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
give that land like that. As you rightly said earlier, a lot of people got their houses on that place, so we're selling all these people house land too.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Okay, let's get a few more callers. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars.
Nadir,
Yes, it is.
when you have a minister,
Go ahead.
present minister,
Mhm.
government, going into a community and telling the people there, our people have been neglected, our communities have been neglected. Clearly they're telling you they're only governing for one kind of people who are their supporters. How can a government minister use those words? And he putting his brain
In action before his mouth in motion.
before he put his mouth in motion.
Yeah.
Hmm?
You know,
It
but
was terrible when I listened
Yes.
to him.
which minister are we?
I don't want to call minister name next, they want to give me a lawsuit.
Okay, thanks a lot. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Hi, good night. What's up, man?
Go ahead.
How you doing? Good?
All is well.
How Pastor Williams used to say that you can't do this, can't do that. So how you just say that you still got power, that you can utilize. Well, demand they got whatever contract they got, they can do it in their own project and their own desire until the 12th July.
As we have said over and over again, Basil has made the office of Attorney General one of the most comical ones ever in this country. Right? No apologies for saying that. He's like the West Indies team, always getting beat up. Right? So, just about 10 minutes remaining tonight on the program, and we're talking about elections and about observing democratic norms, and politicians and political parties are the one who is in the lead in this regard. So while we want to put Guyanese first, the politicians got to put democracy first. That's my position. Good. Lines are clear. Waiting on your calls. And we were speaking a bit about cameras. There is actually a lot of cameras going up. A big contract was issued to, I think, Smart Solutions or something. I think a group out of the East Coast. And they're putting these cameras up at very selected places. Supposed busy intersections and crime-ridden intersections. One of the cameras that is given priority is put at the southwestern part of Robb and Wellington Street, which keeps an eye on Freedom House. One would have expected a busier place where more crime happens is Regent and Wellington. I didn't see a camera there. Hi, good evening, you're on the air.
Good evening, Mr. Manzoor.
Go ahead, go ahead, you're on the air.
Sir, the breaking bad again,
Bad, the freaking bad, Jack, you're bad.
Razor.
Uh-huh.
You know, we say you get the 97% vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's breaking the bad Jack.
Jack Dio is a boss.
No,
Thanks. Good man. Let's take a couple more calls. Right. I agree with you totally. You know. But Jack Dio is the most experienced politician we got in the country. And we can't take that away from the man. The man is just good. And people love him. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Okay, another rule is if you keep your television up, I'll cut you off. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars. Go ahead.
If, I got a point with this no confidence thing.
Go ahead.
If the PNU and AFC been like opposition and AP been in power, what do you think they would do?
More fire, hot fire.
Why now the people get more quiet and stuff, so get the street more protestful and more thing on the street, get let them know. Because there was opposition, the whole song and city was shut down.
Yeah, because democracy says you have a right to stand up for your rights, but you don't have a right to stop another man from enjoying his rights, and that's the difference between the protests.
Everything what them doing right now is illegal.
Thank you very much. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Go ahead. Good evening. Go ahead.
I'd like to thank you for it.
Okay, well, you can always come out when there's an activity. Go ahead. You're on the air. Hold no bars. Go ahead.
Good night.
Good evening.
I just want to call to see one time see the bargain please.
Thank you very much. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars.
Good evening.
Good evening.
No, I listen out between PNC.
Okay, just give me 1 second. Let me turn on the volume on the other one so that we can hear you properly, right? Go ahead.
Yeah. PNC is not in existence anymore. It is the afternoon party that is run.
Okay, I won't argue with you. I will educate you. APNU comprises 5 parties. The major party in APNU is the People's National Congress Reform, right? Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Go ahead. Thank you. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Hi, good night, Mr. Nadir.
Good evening.
I saw at the press conference Mr. Jagdeo was encouraging one of the reporters to do some investigative journalism.
Yeah, I've been saying that to them a long time now.
Right, but I want him to know they're doing investigative journalism. I want to correct him. They're investigating him up to now. They don't have nothing else to investigate. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Okay, so we've cleared all the lines. Thanks for the crisp and short calls. Let's go again here to the cell phone. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, that's him.
Okay, you have to turn the television down. If you give me that feedback, I'm going to cut you off, right? Good. And for those persons, you have a right. You can get your hour on TV and promote whatever democratic process you want to promote, or whichever political party or whichever ideology, or even if your own opinion. You have the right to do that. Hi, good evening. Go ahead.
If they had right, the speaker was from the PPP side. You know, no matter what in the court, if they had no confidence on the coalition side, and the PP was the government, you know, no matter what reach the court, let me face fact.
Not at all.
First thing, the speaker, he had the right, and that's why it's vexed with the speaker to have a tap to play it. The speaker, the parliament that created laws in this country, and the speaker had all the right to throw that down from the parliament. He should never send it to court.
The speaker, let me defend him. I am not, let me just cut you off a bit. I am not one who have admired the rulings of the speaker and how he has conducted himself. But with respect to the no confidence motion, right, he signed off on it as it was properly passed. He signed off on it. So the next day, that signature was on the document. When they returned to court, and I think in this regard, some people are reading the Honorable Speaker a bit wrong. So he again refused to change his decision. He says, look, y'all could go to the court and get a determination, but that'll be for the future, not for this one, right? Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Michael.
Okay, Mahika, how you doing?
I went to Indian area, the street get really bad. After yesterday, after Ghanesium, them making street right now there. And you just check the road from Mike to the King Road, it's very bad.
Okay.
And then they're making the road very bad. And the street of yesterday, they're making street all over the place.
Okay, pal. Okay. So this caller is calling about discrimination, right? Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm listening to your program. One of the things I would like to see in Guyana is constitution reform. We still on to this day using the old constitution that governed by the British. That's one. We need, no matter whatever political party we do adhere by.
Support, right?
We must have one thing: vote on issue and not race.
Right.
Whatever political party bring or deal with our issue or our current issues, let we deal with that. Do not segregate ourselves because we are black, Indian, Armenian, or whatsoever. Deal on issues that are affecting us on a daily basis.
Thank you very much.
Why I will say that, America midterm election decided on the issue that was affecting us. That is all I want to say. So one of the biggest things, constitution reform, should be happening.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So this is a thing that always eludes us. Constitution reform is always part of every manifesto. I think the AFC was big on constitution reform, and even this issue of removing the custodial penalty for a slight amount of narcotics. And now you're hearing this controversy. Oh, cabinet has passed this position of no custodial no custodial sentence for small amounts, and now a different story. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Good evening, Mr. Nadir. If you listen carefully to the afternoon ministers,
Go ahead.
they are the ones who are promoting racism in this country. Listen carefully to what they say. They're the ones who promote it, not the ordinary person on the ground.
Thank you very much. I'm cutting you because we have just about 3 minutes remaining, and I want to get a few more callers in tonight. I see quite a bit of persons on the WhatsApp messages, but I'm not accessing them here. So, on the computer. So we can take 2 callers, and then we'll have to say good night to you from Hold No Bars this July 5th. And this is going to be the final caller tonight. Go ahead.
Yes. Ramatar. When you line up for flow, the way the one we go back to.
Okay, so yes, thanks a lot. Many of our young people, and we'll have perhaps 65% of the persons who will be voting in the elections, hopefully will be sooner rather than later, would not remember those things. They will say people like you and me passed through that as a different time. But we've seen in 4 short years, we've reversed a lot of democratic gains that happened in the last 20 years. So from all of us here at MTV, Kevin, the directors, and myself, thanks for listening, watching, and thinking about our dear land and how we can build a democratic culture in our country. So from all of us here, thanks again for watching, and you have a great rest of July 5th. Thank you very much.